लोकतंत्र में सबसे बड़ा सवाल, जो वोट हमने डाला क्या वो गिना गया? सुप्रीम कोर्ट में ईवीएम को लेकर बड़ा बवाल। संजीव खन्ना की बेंच ने चुनाव आयोग से मांगा जवाब। वोटों की गिनती में हुई गड़बड़ी, गायब वोटों का रहस्य क्या है? सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने अब चुनाव आयोग से पूछा है कि ईवीएम में जो वोट डाले गए क्या वही नतीजे में दिखे? क्या आपके भी वोट गायब हो गए? क्या चुनावों में गड़बड़ी हो रही है? आज हम इसी रहस्य से पर्दा उठाएंगे। भाग 1, सुप्रीम कोर्ट में क्यों मचा बवाल। कुछ दिन पहले सुप्रीम कोर्ट में एक याचिका दायर हुई जिसमें यह दावा किया गया कि कई चुनावों में मतदान के कुल आंकड़े और नतीजों में मतों की संख्या मेल नहीं खा रही है। इस याचिका की सुनवाई जस्टिस संजीव खन्ना की अध्यक्षता वाली बेंच कर रही है। इस मामले में सबसे बड़ा सवाल यह उठा कि जब हर वोटर ईवीएम में अपना वोट डालता है तो कुछ वोट गिनती में गायब कैसे हो जाते हैं। कोर्ट ने चुनाव आयोग से पूछे बड़े सवाल, गायब वोटों का जवाब दो। जितने वोट डाले गए क्या उतने ही गिने गए? ईवीएम की पारदर्शिता का सबूत दो। क्या ईवीएम की जांच के लिए स्वतंत्र ऑडिट होता है? वीवीपैट और ईवीएम मिलान क्यों नहीं? सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने साफ कहा कि जनता को भरोसा चाहिए कि जिस बटन को दबाया गया वही वोट काउंट हुआ है। भाग 2, चुनाव आयोग की सफाई और विपक्ष के आरोप। चुनाव आयोग ने कोर्ट में कहा ईवीएम पूरी तरह से सुरक्षित है और इसमें किसी तरह की गड़बड़ी नहीं हो सकती, लेकिन विपक्ष के नेता इस बात से सहमत नहीं है। विपक्ष ने उठाई गंभीर सवाल, कांग्रेस अगर ईवीएम में कोई गड़बड़ी नहीं है तो बार बार एक ही पार्टी क्यों जीत रही है? टीएमसी, कई बूथों पर वोटिंग का प्रतिशत और रिजल्ट का डेटा मेल नहीं खाता। आप, जब वीवीपैट से सिर्फ 5% मिलान होता है तो बाकी 95% पर भरोसा कैसे करें? भाग 3, गायब वोटों का रहस्य क्या है। भारत में कई चुनावों में ऐसा हुआ है जब वोटिंग के कुल आंकड़ों और रिजल्ट में मतों की संख्या अलग अलग रही है। 2019 लोकसभा चुनाव, कई जगह रिपोर्ट आई कि डाले गए वोट और रिजल्ट में मतों की संख्या अलग है। 2022 उत्तर प्रदेश विधानसभा चुनाव, कुछ बूथों पर वीवीपैट पर्ची और रिजल्ट मेल नहीं खाए। 2023 कर्नाटक चुनाव, 10 से ज्यादा बूथों पर वोटिंग के बाद वैलिड डेटा बदलने के आरोप लगे। भाग 4, ईवीएम पर सुप्रीम कोर्ट का सख्त रोक। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा कि चुनाव आयोग को यह साबित करना होगा कि ईवीएम में छेड़छाड़ संभव नहीं है। अब चुनाव आयोग को कोर्ट में जवाब देना होगा, क्या ईवीएम और वीवीपैट में गड़बड़ी है? क्या ईवीएम का डेटा सुरक्षित रहता है? क्या हर वोट सही तरीके से रिकॉर्ड होता है? सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा कि यह जनता के अधिकार का मामला है। अगर वोट सही नहीं गिने जाते तो लोकतंत्र पर खतरा है। भाग 5, आगे क्या होगा अगर सुप्रीम कोर्ट चुनाव आयोग की सफाई से संतुष्ट नहीं हुआ तो? क्या भारत में ईवीएम को बंद करके बैलेट पेपर वापस लाया जाएगा? आपको क्या लगता है, ईवीएम सुरक्षित है या नहीं? कमेंट में अपनी राय जरूर दें।
That's not been done. What has been said, 151 is not really that way. What has been said is, once you give a power, even on 34, there will be some ancillary and residual powers which flow with every forum. And that's the objective of any procedural section. No procedural enactment can visualize and deal with all sorts of situations. So, that's why, except in Evidence Act, we always say everything is permitted until unless it's expressly barred or impliedly barred. You don't have to look at the provisions of the CPC or the CRPC to find out whether a particular procedure is permitted or particular way.
And come to the 7 judges on that. Our act flips it on the head. Our act, and particularly the way it has been understood, also their lordships were there in the 7 judges, that our act says, and the 7 judges do say, that arbitration act is a complete code.
No, that's
that
fine.
Portion has not been written.
Irrespective of the fact that CRPC, CPC is a complete code, these are the principles which are applicable to procedural laws.
I will go.
We are dealing with both 2 aspects, procedural law as well as substantive law in arbitration.
My lord, may I just put it in this way? One argument could be you read into section 36, the word phrase set aside, you read into the word vary. This is one separate argument.
And it also says this. It also says this CPC and Evidence Act are not applicable to arbitration.
My lord, in fact, very interestingly, under the old act, the other side relied on ITI. ITI has been doubted in MTNL. And the reason for that doubt is
that we have understood that because there was an appellate remedy then provided.
And my lord, there was a specific provision under the old act. Your lordships will note this. There was a specific provision in the old act incorporating the CPC. Specifically, that which is not there. There were, I think, 41, 40, section 40, 41, specifically bringing in CPC. So, my lord, we have to get out of that, should I say, my lord, CPC mindset for a moment. So, my lord, the question which is put is that why should annulment not include variation? This is the argument. This is the highest that it can be put. Why should it not include? My lord, one, I have already argued, basis, this Topfer judgment, and there are a couple of Singapore judgments which I will show, that these are two different concepts. Variation is certainly possible if you have the power to confirm, or in an appeal. Then, of course, you have the power to vary. But in an annulment, it is a negative power. The difference between annulment and variation is where the Lakshman Rekha has to be. Annulment is a negative power. What the court does is, and the language is simple, you don't like the award does not pass muster, you set it aside, you stop. Why? Because the next step is always with the initial forum which you contracted to. The moment you cross the Lakshman Rekha, then you are wearing a different hat. You are wearing the hat of virtually appeal. Because then your substitute, that is the sentence which I read in Redfern and Hunter, you are substituting, you, my lords, will be substituting your own vision of the merits into the award. So, my lord, there is a fundamental distinction between annulment and my lord, it is extremely difficult for somebody who wants to do justice to hold back. And sometimes, my lord, it is necessary to hold back in order to do overall justice. And I will make it good. Now, my lord, one argument which was put is squarely by the other side. I have had the benefit, my lord, now your lordships have transcript. So I went and read the transcript as to exactly what was argued. My lord, what is argued is, why look at the Singapore law? They have a prohibition. We don't have a prohibition. The law there is different. The law here is different. That was argued by Mr. Khambata and also Mr. Rai. And my lord, the section that was pointed out was section 47 of the Domestic Act. So, my lord, here is the problem. Our act, as my lords correctly put to me, considers both international commercial arbitration and what I would call purely domestic arbitration in part 1. My lords have 2(1)(f), both are there. 34 makes a slight distinction that 34(2)(a), which has been introduced, is limited only to domestic awards. We do not have two legislations. Singapore has two legislations. One of the first legislation that it has is the International Arbitration Act of 1994, which is the model law, which is the, by and large, the sections that we have in part 1. So, my lord, if we are to compare like to like, we will be comparing IAA 1994 with our part 1. The sections which are being relied on to say that there is a prohibition, 47 on the court. Well, not again, this problem comes court, tribunal. The prohibition sections on the court are not in IA 1994. It is in the Arbitration Act. It's all there in the note. In 2001, 47, 48, and 49 of the Domestic Act says you cannot vary except in such situations. So, my lord, it is not a prohibition in that sense. It is a almost, if you read all three, it's almost enabling. But that only applies to purely domestic arbitration where the legislature there has deviated from the model law. We have, my lord, in fact, we had recommended that there should be separate acts. It has not been done. We have only one act that has innumerable problems. But today we have one act, and today whatever interpretation your lordships give on section 34 will equally impact. This is very, very critical, will equally impact ICA situated in Delhi as also domestic arbitrage. It will impact clearly. And it will have a very serious, impact across the board. So far as domestic awards are concerned, and those two judgments, AK and ALC, and the other judgment shown by the learned solicitor, I will show.
और आप हमसे जुड़े रहने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें YouTube पर, फॉलो करें Twitter पर और लाइक करें Facebook पर। और ज्यादा जानकारी के लिए आपको टाइप करना होगा सिर्फ न्यूज़ नशा।